When wildfire tears through Elon Musk's Texas ranch, everything burns to ash, except one mysterious concrete building that sits untouched in a perfect circle of green grass. Ranch caretaker Jake Morrison and his 8-year-old daughter Sophia have always wondered what secrets hide behind its windowless walls and electronic locks. Tonight, as flames race toward their home, they're about to discover that some buildings aren't just fireproof. They're built to survive the end of the world. But first, they have to survive the fire that's coming for them right now. Jake Morrison woke up to the sound of thunder rolling across the Texas sky. He checked his phone. 3:42 a.m. The red numbers glowed in the darkness of his small cabin. Lightning flashed outside his window. For just a second, everything lit up bright as day. The dried grass, the dead oak trees, the mysterious concrete building that sat in the middle of Elon Musk's ranch. Jake had worked as caretaker here for 6 years. He knew every inch of these 47 acres in Bastrop County. But that building still puzzled him. No windows. Always locked. He had never been inside. Thunder crashed again. Closer this time. Jake got up and walked to his daughter's room. 8-year-old Sophia was still asleep, her dark hair spread across her pillow. She looked just like her mother. Jake's heart ached, thinking about his wife Sarah. 2 years since the car accident. 2 years of raising Sophia alone on this quiet ranch outside Austin. Another flash of lightning. This time, Jake saw something that made him frown. Smoke in the distance. He grabbed his boots and stepped outside. The air smelled wrong. Too dry. Too hot for September. Texas had not seen rain in 89 days. The worst drought anyone could remember. Jake walked toward the horse barn where thunder, lightning, and storm lived. 3 rescue horses that Sophia loved more than anything. The old Mustang Thunder was her favorite. After Sarah died, that horse helped Sophia heal in ways Jake never could. The wind picked up, pushing dried leaves across the ground. Jake felt his phone buzz. Emergency alert. Wildfire approaching Bastrop County. Evacuate now. His stomach dropped. Fire moved fast in drought conditions. And with these winds, Jake ran back to the cabin. He had to wake Sophia. They had to get the horses loaded. They had to leave. But first he looked back at that concrete building one more time. What was Elon Musk hiding in there? Jake had always wondered but never asked. His job was to take care of the ranch, not ask questions about his boss's business. The building sat on a small hill in the center of the property. It looked like a military bunker. Thick concrete walls. A heavy steel door with electronic locks. No signs or markings anywhere. During his first year working here, Jake had watched construction crews work on the building at night. Unmarked wrecks came and went. Musk himself showed up to check on the work, which was unusual. The billionaire rarely visited the ranch. Jake remembered asking one of the workers what they were building. The man just shrugged and said, "Above my pay grade, buddy." After that, Jake stopped asking questions. The pay was good. Sophia loved living here. They had a home again after losing everything when Sarah died. Lightning struck somewhere close. The thunder came right after, shaking the ground under Jake's feet. He smelled smoke getting stronger. Inside the cabin, he shook Sophia gently. "Sweetheart, wake up. We have to go." Her eyes opened. "Dad, what's wrong?" "There's a fire coming. We need to pack quickly and get the horses." Sophia sat up fast. "The horses? Are they okay?" "They're fine. But we need to move them to safety." Sophia jumped out of bed and ran to her dresser. She grabbed her mother's jewelry box. The lonely thing she always took when they traveled anywhere. "How much time do we have?" she asked. Jake looked out the window. The orange glow on the horizon was getting brighter. The wind was pushing it straight toward them. Not much. Maybe 30 minutes. They threw clothes into bags. Jake grabbed important papers and photos. Sophia packed her favorite books and a stuffed horse her mother gave her. Outside, the air was getting thick with smoke. Jake could hear sirens in the distance. Fire trucks heading toward the flames. At the horse barn, thunder whinnied when he saw them coming. The old Mustang could sense danger. Lightning and storm paced in their stalls, nervous from the smoke smell. "Easy, boy," Jake said, opening Thunder's stall. We're getting you out of here. Sophia helped load hay and water into their horse trailer. She moved quickly but stayed calm, just like her mother used to do in emergencies. Dad, what about the building? Sophia asked, pointing toward the concrete structure. Should we tell someone about it? Jake paused. For a moment, he thought about calling the fire department. But what would he say? There was a mysterious building they should try to save, a building he knew nothing about. It's probably empty, he told Sophia, just storage or something. But deep down, Jake didn't believe that. Buildings like that weren't built for storage. They were built to protect something important. He helped Sophia into the truck while the horses loaded into the trailer behind them. Thunder stomped his feet, eager to leave this place that smelled like danger. As they drove down the ranch's long driveway, Jake looked in his mirror. Flames were already visible on the horizon, moving fast across the dried landscape. Fire Chief Maria Santos would be coordinating evacuations all over the county tonight. Jake had met her a few times at community events. She seemed tough and smart. If anyone could handle this disaster, it was her. But Jake worried about their neighbors who might not evacuate in time. Old Pete Williams lived on the farm next door and was stubborn as a mule. He would probably try to fight the fire with a garden hose. The radio crackled with emergency broadcasts. The Bastrop blaze has grown to 8,000 acres. Winds gusting to 45 miles per hour. All residents in evacuation zones must leave immediately. Sophia reached over and held Jake's hand. The horses will be okay, right, Dad? Yes, sweetheart. We're all going to be okay. But as they reached the main road, Jake saw something that made his blood run cold. Behind them, farms had jumped the highway and were racing up the hill toward the ranch buildings. Everything they had built here, their home, their life, was about to burn. Everything except that mysterious concrete building which sat waiting in the darkness like it was built for exactly this kind of disaster. Jake pressed harder on the gas pedal as flames crept closer to their ranch. In his rearview mirror, he watched orange light dance across the hills, where he and Sophia had lived for 6 years. Dad, look. Sophia pointed ahead. There's a line of cars. Highway 21 was packed with people fleeing the fire, trucks pulling horse trailers like theirs, cars loaded with belongings, RVs moving slowly in the night. Jake rolled down his window and called to the driver next to them. How far ahead is the evacuation center? 20 miles, the man shouted back. Cedar Creek Community Center. That's where they're taking everyone. Sophia pressed her face against the back window. I can still see our house, Dad. The lights are on. Jake had left all the lights on when they evacuated. It was something his wife Sarah used to do when they traveled. So the house knows we're coming back, she would say. Now those lights looked tiny against the wall of fire moving across their land. Fire Captain Rosa Martinez's voice crackled over the radio. All units, this is command. Fire has jumped Highway 21 at mile marker 15. Wind speed now 47 miles per hour. This is moving faster than our computer models predicted. Jake knew Rosa from the community barbecues they held every summer. She was tough and smart, the kind of person you wanted in charge during an emergency. Her grandmother had lived through the big Bastrop fire in 2011 that burned 34,000 acres and destroyed over 1,600 homes. Rosa had told Jake once that fires like these changed everything. You think you know your land, she had said. Then fire comes through and shows you how little control you really have. Thunder whinnied from the trailer behind them. The old Mustang could smell the smoke even through the metal walls. It's okay, boy, Sophia called to him. We're getting you somewhere safe. Jake remembered the day Sophia first met Thunder. It was 6 months after Sarah's funeral. Sophia had barely spoken for weeks. She just sat in her room holding her mother's jewelry box and staring out the window. Then Jake brought home the 3 rescue horses that needed a place to live. Sophia saw Thunder and something changed in her eyes. The old Mustang had scars from his wild days, just like Sophia had scars from losing her mother. They understood each other somehow. Both had survived terrible things and were learning to trust again. Dad, why didn't we tell someone about the building? Sophia asked. What if there's something important in there? Jake had been wondering the same thing. Over the years, he had seen delivery trucks arrive at the ranch monthly. Always at night, always unmarked. The drivers would back up to the concrete building, unload boxes, and leave without speaking to Jake. When Jake asked Musk about it during one of his rare visits, the billionaire just said, "Storage for some projects. Nothing you need to worry about." But Jake was former military. He knew what different kinds of buildings look like. That concrete structure wasn't built for storage. It was built like a bunker, like something designed to protect valuable things from disasters. The steel door was too heavy for normal storage. The electronic locks were too advanced. And why build it on the highest point of the ranch if it was just holding old equipment? "Maybe I should have called someone," Jake told Sophia, "but I don't even know what's in there." "Thunder always acted weird near that building," Sophia said. "Like he could sense something we couldn't." That was true. Whenever Jake led the horses past the concrete structure, Thunder would stop and stare at it. His ears would perk up like he was listening to sounds too quiet for human ears. Lightning and Storm would just keep walking, but Thunder always paused at that spot. Jake's phone buzzed with another emergency alert. Bastrop blaze. Now 12,000 acres. Multiple structures lost. Do not return to evacuation zones. 12,000 acres in 6 hours. Jake had never seen fire move so fast. The radio continued with updates. Firefighter Danny Torres was leading a crew trying to save houses near their ranch. Danny was young, maybe 26, and this was his first major wildfire. Jake hoped the kid would be careful. News reporter Tommy Rodriguez was broadcasting live from the fire zone. His voice sounded scared but determined. "This is unlike anything we've seen in Central Texas. The drought conditions have turned these hills into a tinderbox. Every tree, every blade of grass is ready to burn." Jake thought about all their neighbors. Pete Williams, the stubborn old farmer who lived next door. Dr. Sarah Chen, the veterinarian who took care of their horses. The Martinez family who ran the feed store in town. Were they all getting out safely? Were the firefighters able to save any of the homes? As they crested a hill, Jake saw the Cedar Creek Community Center ahead. Red Cross trucks were parked outside. Volunteers were helping people unload their belongings. It looked like hundreds of families had already arrived. "There's Mrs. Patterson from the grocery store," Sophia said, pointing to an elderly woman sitting on a bench with a cat carrier. "And there's Miguel Santos," she added, waving at a boy about her age. "His mom works with Captain Martinez." Jake parked the truck and trailer in the area marked for livestock. Other horse owners were already there, setting up temporary pens and water stations. A Red Cross volunteer approached them. "Welcome to Cedar Creek. We have cots set up inside. And there's hot food in the kitchen. The animal area is well supplied with hay and water." "Thank you," Jake said. "How many people are here now?" "About 400 and more arriving every hour. This fire is bigger than anyone expected." As Jake and Sophia unloaded Thunder, Lightning, and Storm, they could see the glow on the horizon getting brighter. The fire was still growing, still moving toward more homes and farms. Somewhere behind them, their ranch was burning. Their house, their barn, their memories. All turning ash while they stood here feeling helpless. But Jake couldn't stop thinking about that concrete building. If it was built like he thought, it might be the only thing left standing when the fire finally passed. And if there was something important inside, something worth protecting with military-grade construction and electronic locks, then maybe losing everything else wouldn't be the end of their story. Maybe it would be the beginning of something much bigger. Jake couldn't sleep. He lay on the narrow Red Cross cot, listening to hundreds of people breathing in the community center. Sophia slept next to him, her small hands still gripping her mother's jewelry box. At 6 a.m., his phone buzzed with an update. The Bastrop blaze now covered 12,000 acres, 0% contained. Winds still gusting over 40 miles per hour. Jake walked outside to check on the horses. The eastern sky glowed orange, but this time it wasn't the sunrise. "Can't sleep either?" Jake turned. A young man in a suit-covered firefighter uniform stood nearby. His name tag read Torres. "You're Danny Torres," Jake said. "I heard you on the radio last night." Danny nodded, pulling off his helmet. He looked exhausted. "Just came back from the front lines. We lost the Jenkins farm about 2 miles from your place." "What about our ranch?" "The Morrison property?" Danny's face was grim. "I'm sorry, man. The main house is gone. The barn too." Fire moved through there around midnight. Jake felt his stomach drop, even though he had expected this news. "Everything?" "Pretty much." Danny paused. There was one weird thing though. You guys have some kind of concrete building up on the hill? Yes. What about it? It's still standing, completely untouched. Never seen anything like it in my 6 years fighting fires. Jake stared at him. Untouched? Are you sure? Positive. The grass around it is even still green, like the fire just went around it somehow. Before Jake could ask more questions, Fire Chief Maria Santos drove up in her red truck. She climbed out, looking tired but determined. Danny, I need you back out there in 20 minutes, she called. We're making a stand at Highway 9. Yes, ma'am. Danny turned back to Jake. I'm sorry about your home, but that building of yours, whatever it is, it's built to survive anything. As Danny walked away, Chief Santos approached Jake. Mr. Morrison, isn't it? I remember you from the community barbecues. That's right. Chief, what can you tell me about the fire's path? Santos pulled out a tablet showing a map covered in red. It's moving faster than any fire I've seen. The drought has everything bone dry. These 47-mile-per-hour winds are pushing flames across Highway 21 like it's not even there. She pointed to different areas on the map. We've called in help from Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. But we're looking at maybe 5 more days before we get any rain. Jake studied the map. Red covered thousands of acres, including his ranch. Chief, one of your firefighters said my concrete building survived. How is that possible? Santos looked puzzled. What concrete building? The one in the center of my property. Big structure, no windows. Heavy steel door. I don't have that marked on our property maps. Santos frowned. Can you show me exactly where? Jake pointed to the spot on her tablet. Right there? On the highest hill. Santos made a note. I'll have Captain Martinez check it out when she does damage assessment. If it survived, we need to understand why. As the sun came up, more bad news arrived. The fire had jumped another highway and was threatening the town of Elgin. 3 firefighters were injured when their truck overturned, avoiding falling power lines. Inside the community center, families gathered around TV screens watching news coverage. Reporter Tommy Rodriguez was broadcasting live from a helicopter. The destruction is unlike anything Central Texas has seen, Rodriguez said over the noise of helicopter blades. Entire neighborhoods reduced to ash. Livestock stranded on islands of unburned ground. And still, this monster fire continues to grow. Sophia found Jake by the coffee station. Dad, Miguel Santos wants to show me the animal rescue area. Can I go? Jake looked across the room and saw Miguel, a boy about Sophia's age with dark hair and serious eyes. Chief Santos had mentioned her nephew was staying here too. Stay close to the building, Jake said. And check in with me every hour. As Sophia walked away with Miguel, Jake felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Dr. Sarah Chen, the veterinarian who had treated their horses many times. Jake, I'm so sorry about your ranch, Dr. Chen said. I heard the news from Chief Santos. Thanks, Doc. How are you holding up? My clinic is gone, but I've set up a temporary animal hospital here. We're treating wildlife that escaped the fire. Burns, smoke inhalation, dehydration. Dr. Chen led Jake outside to where she had set up cages and treatment tables under a large tent. Want to help? It might keep your mind busy. For the next 2 hours, Jake helped Dr. Chen care for injured animals. Baby rabbits with singed fur, a deer with burned hooves, a family of raccoons that had fled their tree home. Working with his hands felt good. It reminded Jake of his military days, when staying busy during crisis helped him think clearly. Dr. Chen, Jake said as they bandaged a young fox's paw. Have you ever seen a building survive a fire like this, completely untouched? Not in my experience. Why? Jake explained about the concrete structure on his ranch. Dr. Chen listened carefully. Sounds like it was built for extreme conditions, she said. Military-grade construction. Maybe? You mentioned you served in the army. That's what I'm thinking. But why would Elon Musk need that kind of building on a ranch? Before Dr. Chen could answer, Miguel ran up to them. Mr. Morrison? Come quick. Sophia found something on the news. Jake followed Miguel inside, where Sophia stood in front of the big TV screen. Tommy Rodriguez was interviewing Fire Captain Rosa Martinez. Captain, can you explain this unusual burn pattern we're seeing on the Morrison Ranch? Rodriguez asked. The camera showed aerial footage of Jake's property. Everything was black except for one small green circle on the highest hill. "We're not sure yet," Captain Martinez answered. "The structure appears to have some kind of protective barrier. Our thermal readings show it's actually cooler than the surrounding area." Rodriguez zoomed in on the concrete building. "This is extraordinary, Captain. It looks like the fire simply went around this building. Almost like it was designed for this exact scenario." Jake stared at the screen. His home, his barn, everything he and Sophia had built here. Gone. But that mysterious building sat in its circle of green grass like nothing had happened. "Dad," Sophia whispered. "What do you think is in there?" "I don't know, sweetheart. But I'm starting to think we need to find out." On the TV, Tommy Rodriguez continued his report. "We'll stay with this developing story. This is the first structure we've seen that appears completely fireproof against the Bastrop blaze." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. If that building was designed to survive disasters like this, what did that say about what Elon Musk expected to happen in the future? And more importantly, what was hidden inside that was worth protecting with military-grade construction? Jake couldn't get that question out of his head. He spent the rest of the morning helping Dr. Chen with the injured animals, but his mind kept wandering to that concrete building sitting untouched on his burned ranch. "Mr. Morrison?" A young voice interrupted his thoughts. Jake looked up from the rabbit cage he was cleaning. Miguel Santos stood nearby, holding a small carrier with a baby owl inside. "Dr. Chen said you might help me feed this one," Miguel said. "His wing is hurt, but she thinks he'll be okay." Jake smiled. Miguel reminded him of Sophia at that age. Serious, caring, wise beyond his years. "What's his name?" "I'm calling him Ash," Miguel said, "because that's where we found him." As Jake helped Miguel feed the owl with a tiny dropper, he learned more about the boy. Miguel's parents were both firefighters working the blaze. His Aunt Maria was Fire Chief Santos. The boy had grown up around emergency responders. "My dad says this fire is different," Miguel told Jake. "Bigger than the computers said it would be. Like something made it spread faster." "What do you mean?" Miguel shrugged. "Just what I heard and tell my mom. The fire jumped places it shouldn't have. Moved in directions the wind maps didn't predict." Before Jake could ask more questions, Sophia appeared with Dr. Chen. They were carrying a box full of medical supplies. "Dad, Dr. Chen needs help setting up the bigger treatment area," Sophia said. "More animals are coming in." Over the next hour, Jake watched his daughter work alongside the veterinarian. Sophia had a natural way with scared animals. She spoke softly to them, moved slowly, seemed to understand what they needed without being told. It reminded Jake of how she was with Thunder, that special connection some people had with creatures who couldn't teak for themselves. "Your daughter has a gift," Dr. Chen said quietly as they watched Sophia comfort a burned fox kit. "After her mother died, I worried about her. But she's stronger than most adults I know." "Sarah always said Sophia was an old soul," Jake replied. "Like she understood things the rest of us missed." As afternoon approached, more evacuees arrived at the community center. Jake helped families unload their belongings and find places to sleep. Everyone had the same shocked look in their eyes, the disbelief that came from losing everything in one night. But the community was coming together too. People who had never met before were sharing food, blankets, and stories. Children like Sophia and Miguel were helping adults stay hopeful when the news got too scary. Around 2 p.m., a man in his 60s approached Jake at the registration table. He had gray hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and the careful way of moving that came from years of working with precision instruments. "Excuse me," the man said. "Are you Jake Morrison, the caretaker at the Musk Ranch?" "That's right, and you are?" "Dr. Marcus Webb. I used to work for SpaceX." He looked around nervously. "Could we speak privately? It's about that building on your property." Jake felt his pulse quicken. "What building?" "The concrete structure. I helped design it 5 years ago before I left the company." Jake led Dr. Webb outside, away from the crowd. "You designed it? Then you know what's inside." Dr. Webb shook his head. "That's the problem. I left SpaceX before the project was finished. All I know is that Musk personally supervised every detail. He called it a special preservation project, but wouldn't say more." "Preservation of what?" "That's what I've been wondering for 5 years." Dr. Webb pulled out his phone and showed Jake a news photo of the building surrounded by burned land. When I saw this on the news, I had to come find you. That building surviving like that, it confirms everything I suspected. Which was that it's built to withstand catastrophic events, not just fires. Much worse things. Before Jake could respond, they heard shouting from across the parking lot. Pete Williams, the stubborn old farmer who lived next to their ranch, was arguing with a Red Cross volunteer. "I don't care what your rules are," Pete was yelling. "I'm going back to check on my cattle." Jake and Dr. Webb hurried over. Pete looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days. His clothes were covered in soot and his hands were bandaged. "Pete, what happened?" Jake asked. "Fire came right up to my house around 4 a.m., Pete said. "I fought it with the garden hose until Captain Martinez's crew showed up. They made me evacuate, but I left 20 head of cattle in the north pasture." The Red Cross volunteer, a patient woman named Linda, tried to calm him down. "Mr. Williams, the fire zone is still too dangerous. No civilians allowed." "Those are my animals," Pete snapped. "Been raising cattle on that land for 40 years. I'm not abandoning them now." Jake put a hand on Pete's shoulder. "Maybe I can help. I know that area well." Dr. Webb looked worried. "The news said the fire is still spreading toward Highway 95. It's not safe for anyone." Just then, Danny Torres walked up, still in his firefighter gear. He looked exhausted but determined to keep working. "Mr. Williams," Danny said, "I just came from your area. Your house is still standing and I saw your cattle. They found a pond, and they're safe for now. See?" Pete said to Linda. "I told you they were smart animals." Danny continued, "But we can't get them out until we establish a fire break. Maybe 2 more days." 2 days? Pete looked panicked. "They'll run out of water." Sophia and Miguel appeared at Jake's side. They had been listening to the conversation. "Dad," Sophia said quietly, "couldn't the horses help? Thunder knows that area really well." Jake looked at his daughter. Sometimes her ideas seemed impossible, but they often made perfect sense. "What are you thinking, sweetheart? Thunder could lead Mr. Williams' cattle to safety. He used to run wild in those hills. He knows all the paths the fire trucks can't reach." Danny Torres looked interested. "That's actually not a bad idea. If we could get the cattle to move toward the south road, we could evacuate them safely." Pete's eyes lit up. "Thunder's a smart horse. And those cattle trust him. They've grazed together for years." Dr. Chen had been listening nearby. "I could go with them," she offered. "Make sure the animals stay healthy during the move." Linda, the Red Cross volunteer, looked skeptical. "This sounds very dangerous." But Fire Chief Santos had walked up during the conversation. "It might work," she said thoughtfully. "We're already planning a controlled evacuation of large animals tomorrow. This could be part of that operation." Jake looked around at all these people willing to risk danger to help each other. His neighbors, his daughter, even Dr. Webb, who barely knew them. "Okay," Jake said. "Let's figure out how to save Pete's cattle." As they made plans, Jake caught Dr. Webb, watching him carefully. "What is it?" Jake asked. Dr. Webb lowered his voice. "I'm starting to think your hiring at that ranch wasn't coincident. Musk is very careful about who he trusts with important things." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe he knew something like this might happen. And maybe he wanted someone with your military background there when it did." Jake felt a chill despite the warm afternoon. If Dr. Webb was right, then everything that had happened, the fire, the building surviving, even this moment right now, might be part of something much bigger than a natural disaster. Something Elon Musk had been preparing for all along. The thought haunted Jake through the night. He lay on his cot listening to Dr. Webb's quiet snoring and wondering what secrets were hidden in that concrete building on his burned ranch. At dawn, Fire Chief Santos gave them permission to check the damage. The fire had moved east toward Elgin, leaving behind a landscape that looked like another planet. Jake drove his truck slowly down Highway 21. Sophia sat beside him, staring out the window at the black wasteland that used to be green hills and oak trees. "It looks like pictures from Mars," she whispered. Dr. Webb and Dr. Chen followed in another vehicle. Pete Williams rode with them, eager to see his cattle and what remained of his farm. Everything was ash and twisted metal. Road signs had melted. Power lines lay across the highway like giant black spikes. The smell of smoke was so thick they had to keep the windows closed. "There's our mailbox." Sophia pointed to a metal post sticking up from the ground. The wooden mailbox Jake had built when they first moved to the ranch was completely gone. As they turned onto the ranch road, Jake's heart sank. The gate was a pile of burned metal. The fence posts were black sticks poking up from ash-covered ground. "Dad, where's our house?" Sophia asked. Jake stopped the truck where their driveway used to be. Nothing remained of their small cabin, except the stone foundation and a twisted metal refrigerator. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," Jake said, putting his arm around Sophia. "It's gone." But Sophia was looking toward the hill in the center of the ranch. "Dad, look at the building." Jake followed her gaze and couldn't believe what he saw. The concrete structure sat exactly as it always had, completely untouched. The grass around it was still green in a perfect circle about 50 feet wide. Dr. Webb got out of his truck and walked toward them. His face was pale. "This is impossible," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "The building I helped design was fireproof. But not like this. This looks like it has some kind of protective field around it." Dr. Chen joined them, carrying her veterinary equipment. "The air temperature here is different too," she said. "It's cooler near the building." Pete Williams was already walking toward the hill. "My cattle were grazing right here yesterday," he called back to them. "The grass was brown and dead. Now look at it." The green grass around the building was thick and healthy, like it had been watered recently. But there had been no rain in 3 months. Jake led the group up the hill. With each step, the air got cleaner and cooler. By the time they reached the building, it felt like a different season. "This doesn't make scientific sense," Dr. Chen said, kneeling to touch the grass. "Everything else burned at temperatures over 1,800 degrees. But this vegetation looks better than before the fire." Dr. Webb walked around the concrete structure, examining every detail. The building was about the size of a small house, but had no windows. Just thick concrete walls and that heavy steel door with electronic locks. "Jake, do you remember exactly when this was built?" Dr. Webb asked. "Started about 5 years ago. Took them 6 months of night work to finish it. That matches my timeline at SpaceX. I left the company right after Musk approved this project." Sophia found something near the building's base. "Dad, come look at this." She was pointing at small metal vents built into the concrete, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. Jake counted 6 of them spaced evenly around the structure. "Air vents?" Dr. Chen asked. Dr. Webb shook his head. "Those aren't for air. They're for cooling systems. Very advanced ones." Jake walked to the steel door and examined the electronic lock. It had a card reader and what looked like a fingerprint scanner. No company logos or identification anywhere. "Dr. Webb, do you still have access to this building?" "I might. When I left SpaceX, my security clearance was supposed to be canceled. But sometimes these things fall through computer cracks." Dr. Webb pulled a keycard from his wallet. It looked like a credit card but thicker, with a small computer chip embedded in the plastic. "I kept this as a souvenir," he admitted. "Never thought I'd need it again." As Dr. Webb approached the card reader, Jake's phone rang. Fire investigator Captain Lisa Park was calling. "Mr. Morrison, this is Captain Park with the State Fire Investigation Unit. I'm studying the burn patterns on your property. Can you meet me there this afternoon?" "We're here now, Captain. What can I tell you?" "I need to understand how that building survived. I've investigated thousands of fires and I've never seen anything like this." Jake looked around at his friends examining the mysterious structure. "Captain, I think you need to see this yourself. There are things here that don't make sense. I'm 20 minutes away. Don't touch anything until I arrive." As Jake hung up, Pete Williams called from the other side of the hill. "Hey, I found my cattle, and they're not alone." The group hurried to where Pete stood, pointing down into a small valley. 20 cattle grazed peacefully near a pond. But they weren't alone. Dozens of wild animals had gathered there too. Deer, rabbits, foxes, even a few wild turkeys. All the creatures that had survived the fire by finding this one spot where the grass was still green and the water was clean. "It's like Noah's Ark," Sophia said softly. Dr. Chen was already unpacking her veterinary supplies. "I need to check these animals for injuries and smoke inhalation." As she worked, Jake noticed something strange. The animals all seemed healthier than he would expect after surviving a major fire. Their fur was clean, their breathing clear, their eyes bright. "Dr. Chen, how do they look?" Jake asked. "Better than they should," she replied, checking a young deer's lungs with her stethoscope. "No smoke damage, no dehydration. It's like they've been in a protected environment." Dr. Webb was taking pictures of everything with his phone. "Jake, I think this building is more than just fireproof. I think it's designed to create a safe zone around itself." Safe from what? That's what we need to find out. A red truck drove up the hill toward them. Captain Lisa Park climbed out wearing the blue uniform of the State Fire Investigation Unit. She was a woman in her 40s with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Morrison?" she called. "I'm Captain Park." Jake introduced her to the group. Captain Park listened carefully as they explained what they had discovered. "Show me everything," she said, pulling out a tablet and camera. For the next hour, Captain Park documented the green circle around the building, the healthy animals, the perfect condition of the concrete structure. She took temperature readings, soil samples, and hundreds of photographs. "In 30 years of fire investigation, this is the strangest thing I've ever seen," she finally said. "This building didn't just survive the fire, it protected everything around it." Dr. Webb showed her his key card. "Captain, I helped design this building 5 years ago. I might be able to get us inside." Captain Park considered this carefully. "This could be evidence in my investigation. If we're going inside, we need to document everything properly." "What are you thinking, Captain?" Jake asked. "I'm thinking that a building this advanced, in a location this remote, with protection this sophisticated, probably contains something very important." She looked at Dr. Webb's keycard. "And I'm thinking we need to find out what that is." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the burned landscape, Jake felt they were standing at the edge of a discovery that would change everything. Whatever Elon Musk had hidden in that concrete building, whatever he had been preparing for, they were about to do out. Captain Park set up her equipment while the sun painted the burned landscape orange and red. She connected her tablet to thermal imaging camera and pointed it at the concrete building. "This is incredible," she said, showing the screen to the others. "The building's interior temperature is 68 degrees. The air outside is 95 degrees. There's definitely an active cooling system running." Dr. Webb studied the thermal image. "That means the building has its own power source, independent from the electrical grid, which was destroyed in the fire anyway." Jake added, remembering the melted power lines they had seen on the drive here. Sophia and Miguel sat on the green grass near the building, watching Dr. Chen examine the rescued animals. The children were amazed by how calm all the creatures seemed. "Dr. Chen," Sophia called, "why aren't the deer afraid of us?" "That's a good question," Dr. Chen replied, gently checking a rabbit's ears. "Wild animals are usually much more nervous around humans. These act like they've been in a safe place for days." Miguel stood up and walked closer to the building's wall. "I can hear something," he said. The adults stopped talking and listened. There was a very quiet humming sound, so soft they had to strain to hear it. "Ventilation system," Dr. Webb said, "and probably air filtration. This building is completely sealed from the outside environment." Captain Park finished her documentation and approached Dr. Webb. "Are you ready to try that keycard?" Dr. Webb nodded but looked nervous. "I should warn you, this might trigger security systems. When I worked at SpaceX, some facilities had automatic lockdown procedures." "What kind of lockdown?" Jake asked. "If unauthorized people tried to enter, the building would seal itself and alert security. But since I helped design this place, my card might still work." Captain Park considered this. "We're all here in official capacity. You're the original designer. I'm investigating the fire, and Mr. Morrison is the property caretaker. That should cover us legally." Pete Williams had finished checking on his cattle and joined the group. "What are you folks planning to do?" "We're going to see what's inside that building," Jake explained. "Mind if I stick around? After 40 years ranching next door, I'm curious too." Dr. Webb approached the steel door. The keycard reader was built into the wall next to a small screen and fingerprint scanner. "Here goes nothing," Dr. Webb said, sliding his card through the reader. The screen lit up with green text, "Card accepted. Fingerprint required." "Well, that's good news and bad news," Dr. Webb said. "Good news is my card still works. Bad news is they upgraded the security since I left. He pressed his thumb to the scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen flashed. Access denied. Fingerprint not recognized. That makes sense, Captain Park said. They would have updated the biometric database when you left the company. Jake felt disappointed, but not surprised. Security systems were designed to keep people out, even former employees. Then Miguel spoke up from where he sat on the grass. Mr. Webb, try your other hand. What do you mean? My dad works with computer systems for the fire department. He says sometimes the old fingerprints stay in the system even when they're supposed to be deleted. Try a different finger. Dr. Webb looked skeptical but pressed his index finger to the scanner instead of his thumb. The screen flashed. Fingerprint. Accepted. Welcome, Dr. Webb. With a soft hiss, the heavy steel door began to slide open. Smart kid, Dr. Webb said to Miguel, who grinned proudly. Cool air flowed out of the opening. It smelled clean and fresh, completely different from the smoky air outside. Automatic lights came on, revealing a stairway leading down into the building. It goes underground, Captain Park said, taking pictures with her camera. Jake looked at Sophia. Sweetheart, maybe you and Miguel should stay out here with the animals. Dad, we'll be careful, Sophia said. Besides, Miguel figured out how to open the door. Captain Park considered this. The children should stay close to us, at all times. This is potentially dangerous. As the group descended the stairs, Jake counted 25 steps before they reached a landing with another door. This one was already open, leading into a hallway lined with some kind of metallic material. The walls seemed to absorb sound. Their footsteps were muffled, and even their voices sounded different. What is this material? Dr. Chen asked, touching the wall. I don't recognize it, Dr. Webb admitted. This is more advanced than anything we used in my SpaceX projects. The hallway led to a large room filled with computer equipment. Multiple screens showed scrolling data, weather maps, and what looked like satellite images. Everything was running smoothly, as if people worked here every day. Someone's been monitoring the fire, Captain Park said, pointing to a screen showing the Bastrop Blaze's movement in real time. Jake studied another screen. It showed temperature readings from around the building, air quality measurements, and power consumption data. This place has been automatically protecting itself, he realized. The cooling system, the air filtration, everything activated when the fire approached. Sophia found a room off the main area. Dad, there are beds in here and a kitchen. The living quarters looked comfortable, but simple. 4 beds, a small kitchen with a full refrigerator, a bathroom with shower, like a bunker designed for people to live in during an emergency. Miguel discovered another room filled with supplies. Shelves lined the walls, stocked with canned food, bottled water, medical supplies, and equipment. Jake didn't recognize. There's enough food here for months, Miguel called to the adults. Dr. Webb was examining the computer systems when an alarm suddenly started beeping. Red lights flashed on the walls. What's happening? Captain Park asked. Dr. Webb frantically checked different screens. The security system detected our presence. It's starting automatic lockdown procedures. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means the building is sealing itself. We might be trapped. A computerized voice came through speakers built into the walls. UNF full-side access detected. Lockdown initiated in 60 seconds. Jake grabbed Sophia's hand while Captain Park took Miguel's arm. They all looked toward the stairway that led back to the surface. Can you stop it? Jake asked Dr. Webb. I'm trying, Dr. Webb said, typing quickly on one of the keyboards. But this system is more advanced than what I remember designing. The computerized voice continued counting down, lockdown in 45 seconds. Pete Williams, who had been quietly exploring, called from another doorway. Folks, you need to see this room. Right now. Despite the countdown, curiosity made them all follow Pete into the adjoining space. The room contained something that made everyone stop and stare. Charts covered the walls, showing detailed plans for Mars colonies. Advanced equipment that looked like it belonged on a spacecraft. And in the center, a scale model of what appeared to be a lunar base. Lock down in 30 seconds. This isn't just about surviving disasters on Earth, Captain Park said, taking rapid photos. This is about surviving somewhere else entirely. Dr. Webb had given up on the computer and was studying the Mars colony plans. These are more detailed than anything SpaceX has published. This is like a complete blueprint for human settlement on another planet. Lockdown in 15 seconds. We need to go, Jake said, pulling Sophia toward the stairs. But as they reached the stairway, they heard a loud mechanical sound from above. The steel door at the surface was sliding closed. They were trapped inside Elon Musk's secret bunker, with no way to call for help and no idea how long the lockdown would last. The computerized voice continued its announcement. Lockdown complete. Facility sealed. Air supply switched to internal reserves. Jake felt his heart racing, but he forced himself to stay calm. Sophia and Miguel were looking to the adults for guidance. He couldn't let them see how scared he was. Dr. Webb, how long do we have? Captain Park asked, checking her phone for signal. No bars. Dr. Webb studied the computer screens showing building systems. Based on the air circulation data, maybe 8 hours. 10 at most. That's assuming the system works perfectly, Dr. Chen added. If something breaks down, she didn't finish the sentence. But everyone understood. They could run out of breathable air long before anyone realized they were missing. Pete Williams sat down heavily on one of the chairs. Well, this is a fine mess. My cattle are probably wondering where I went. Despite their situation, Miguel laughed. Mr. Williams, I think your cows will be okay for a few hours. Jake appreciated the boy's attempt to keep spirits up. Both children were handling this crisis better than some adults would. Miguel, Sophia, I need you two to explore this place, Jake said. Look for any other exits, emergency controls, anything that might help us get out. Really? Sophia asked, surprised that her father was giving them such an important job. Really? You're smaller than us, and kids notice things adults miss sometimes. The children set off to explore while the adults studied the main computer system. Dr. Webb was trying to understand how the advanced technology worked. This is definitely not the system I helped design, he said, scrolling through complex data displays. Someone upgraded everything after I left SpaceX. Captain Park was documenting everything with her camera, even though she couldn't transmit the photos. This facility is like nothing I've seen. It's part bunker, part spacecraft control center. Look at this, Dr. Chen called from another screen. It's showing air quality readings from outside. The smoke from the fire is much worse than we thought. Jake studied the display. Red zones covered most of central Texas, indicating dangerous levels of smoke and particles in the air. Maybe being trapped in here isn't the worst thing, he said. At least we're breathing clean air. Meanwhile, Sophia and Miguel were making their own discoveries. They found a room filled with seeds stored in special containers. Dad, Sophia called. There are seeds from every plant I've ever seen and lots I don't recognize. In another room, Miguel discovered something even more interesting. There's a tunnel back here. It's behind a bookshelf that moves. The adults hurried to see what Miguel had found. Behind a wall of books about space exploration, a narrow tunnel led deeper underground. This wasn't in my original designs, Dr. Webb said, shining his phone's flashlight into the dark passage. Should we explore it? Captain Park asked. Jake looked at the tunnel entrance. It was barely wide enough for one person at a time. Let's check the main systems first. Maybe there's another way to open the building. As Dr. Webb worked on the computers, Sophia made another discovery. She found a communication system built into one of the walls. Dad, I think this is a radio, she said. Dr. Webb examined it carefully. Not just any radio. This looks like it's designed to communicate with satellites or spacecraft. He tried to activate the system, but it required authorization codes he didn't have. Wait, Miguel said. What about that tunnel? Maybe it leads to another exit. And Captain Park considered this. It could also lead us deeper underground with no way back. The air in the facility was starting to feel stale. Jake noticed everyone was breathing a little faster. Dr. Webb, any luck with the lockdown system? I'm afraid not. The computer won't accept any of my old authorization codes. And the newer systems are beyond my knowledge. Sophia tugged on Jake's shirt. Dad, remember what you taught me about emergencies? Jake smiled. After Sarah died, he had taught Sophia basic emergency skills, including how to stay calm and think clearly under pressure. What do you remember? When one plan doesn't work, try a different approach, and always look for what other people might have missed. Jake felt proud of his daughter's clear thinking. What are you suggesting? The tunnel. If Mr. Musk built this place to keep people safe, He probably built more than one way out. Miguel nodded enthusiastically. My Aunt Maria always says emergency bunkers have backup exits. Dr. Chen checked her watch. We've been down here 2 hours. If we're going to explore that tunnel, we should do it now while we still have energy. Captain Park made the decision for them. I'll go first with Dr. Webb. Jake and the children follow. Dr. Chen and Mr. Williams bring up the rear. They gathered supplies from the bunker's storage room. Flashlights, water bottles, and some energy bars. Dr. Chen packed a small medical kit in case someone got injured. The tunnel was carved out of solid rock and lined with the same metallic material as the main facility. It sloped downward, leading them even deeper underground. How far do you think this goes? Sophia whispered. Her voice echoed softly off the tunnel walls. No way to tell, Captain Park replied, but it's clearly man-made and professionally constructed. After walking for 10 minutes, they reached a metal door similar to the entrance above. This one had a simpler lock, just a keypad requiring a numerical code. Great, Pete Williams said. Another locked door. Dr. Webb studied the keypad. This is older technology, probably from the original construction. Miguel examined the numbers on the keypad. Some were more worn than others, suggesting they were used more often. The numbers 1, 2, 0, and 9 look the most used, he observed. Good eye, Captain Park said. That suggests a 4-digit code using those numbers. What year did construction start on this place? Sophia asked. Jake thought back. 2019, 5 years ago. Miguel immediately pressed 2019 on the keypad. The door beeped and clicked open. Smart kids, Pete Williams said with admiration. The door opened into another room, but this one was different. Instead of computers and living quarters, it contained something that made everyone stare in amazement. The walls were covered with charts showing Earth's climate patterns, solar activity measurements, and what looked like predictions about natural disasters. One large screen displayed a world map with red zones marked across every continent. This isn't just about Mars colonies, Dr. Webb said quietly. This is about Earth becoming uninhabitable. Captain Park was already taking pictures. These charts show climate change happening much faster than public reports indicate. Jake studied a display showing global temperature projections. According to this data, large parts of Earth would become too hot for human survival within the next 20 years. Is this why Musk built this place? Dr. Chen asked. Because he knows something the rest of us don't? Before anyone could answer, they heard a sound that made their blood run cold. From somewhere above them came the distant sound of voices and heavy footsteps. Someone else had entered the facility. Jake motioned for everyone to stay quiet. The voices were too far away to understand, but they were definitely coming from the main level above them. Could it be a rescue team? Dr. Chen whispered hopefully. Captain Park shook her head. Rescue teams would be calling out, identifying themselves. These voices are trying to stay quiet. Dr. Webb looked worried. When I worked at SpaceX, some facilities had security protocols. If unauthorized access was detected, private security companies would respond. You mean like guards? Sophia asked, staying close to her father. Worse than guards. Corporate security teams that ask questions later. Jake felt his military training kick in. They needed to assess the situation and plan their next move carefully. Can we get back to the main level without being seen? He asked Dr. Webb. Maybe. But if they're security professionals, they'll have equipment we don't. Pete Williams pointed to the climate data displays still showing on the screens around them. Before we worry about visitors, shouldn't we understand what all this means? Miguel was studying one of the charts. Mr. Williams is right. Look at this map. It shows places that will be too hot for people to live. The world map displayed temperature projections for the next 30 years. Vast areas of Africa, the Middle East, Southern Asia, and the American Southwest were marked in dark red. According to this data, Dr. Chen said, reading the technical displays, over 2 billion people will need to relocate by 20. That can't be right, Captain Park said. Climate reports don't show changes happening that fast. Dr. Webb was studying another screen. Unless the public reports are being downplayed, these calculations include factors I've never seen in government climate studies. Jake found a display showing solar activity measurements. What's this about the sun? Solar flares, Dr. Webb explained. Increased solar activity can damage electrical grids and satellites. But according to this data, we're entering a period of much higher solar activity than predicted. Sophia discovered another section showing food production projections. Dad, this says many farms won't be able to grow food in 20 years. The implications were staggering. If this data was accurate, human civilization faced challenges much greater than anyone publicly admitted. This is why Musk built Mars colony plans, Miguel realized. Not just for exploration, but because people might need somewhere else to live. The voices above them were getting louder. Jake could make out at least 3 different people moving around the main facility. We need to know who's up there, Captain Park said. But we also need to stay hidden until we understand their intentions. Dr. Webb found a security monitor system built into the wall. These cameras might show us what's happening above. The screens flickered to life, showing different views of the main facility. 3 men in dark suits were examining the computer systems. They moved with professional efficiency, photographing everything and collecting data. Corporate security, Dr. Webb confirmed, probably sent by SpaceX to secure the facility after the lockdown was triggered. One of the men was speaking into a radio. Jake couldn't hear the words, but the man's body language suggested he was reporting to someone in authority. They're documenting everything we saw, Captain Park observed. Taking photos, copying files. But why? Dr. Chen asked. If this is Musk's facility, why would his own security team treat it like a crime scene? Dr. Webb looked uncomfortable. Unless they're not his security team. The thought sent chills through the group. If these weren't Musk's people, who were they? And how did they know about the facility? Miguel pointed to one of the screens. Look, they found the tunnel entrance. On the monitor, they watched one of the men discover the hidden passage behind the bookshelf. He spoke into his radio and gestured for the others to join him. They're coming down here, Sophia said, grabbing Jake's hand. Jake looked around the room they were in. There was only one way out, back through the tunnel they had just come from. But the security team was now blocking that path. Is there another exit from this room? He asked Dr. Webb. Not that I know of. But remember, this level wasn't in my original designs. Captain Park was studying the walls, looking for any hidden passages or emergency exits. There has to be, booming. Emergency bunkers always have multiple escape routes. Pete Williams had been quietly examining the climate data displays. Folks, I hate to interrupt, but you need to see this. He was pointing at a screen showing recent weather patterns across Texas. The data indicated that the drought conditions weren't entirely natural. What do you mean? Dr. Chen asked. Look at these atmospheric pressure readings. And these temperature spikes. I've been ranching for 40 years and I've never seen weather patterns like this. Dr. Webb joined them at the display. His face went pale as he studied the meteorological data. This suggests the drought was artificially enhanced, he said quietly. What does that mean? Sophia asked. It means someone made the dry conditions worse, made the fire danger higher. The implications hit everyone at the same time. The wildfire that destroyed their homes, that brought them to discover this facility, might not have been entirely natural. Why would someone do that? Miguel asked. Before anyone could answer, they heard footsteps in the tunnel. The security team had found them. Jake looked around desperately for any way out. That's when Sophia noticed something the adults had missed. Dad, look at the floor, she whispered. In the corner of the room, barely visible, was a small metal grate built into the floor. An air vent, just large enough for a person to crawl through. Emergency ventilation system, Dr. Webb realized. It might lead to the surface. The footsteps in the tunnel were getting closer. They had maybe 2 minutes before the security team reached their location. Jake knelt down and tried to lift the grate. It was heavy but not locked. Underneath was a narrow shaft leading upward at a steep angle. Kids first, he said. Sophia, then Miguel. What if it doesn't lead out? Sophia asked. Jake looked at his brave daughter. Then we find another way. But we stick together no matter what. One by one, they squeezed into the narrow ventilation shaft. It was a tight fit even for the children, and the adults had to crawl on their stomachs. Behind them, they heard the security team enter the room they had just left. Voices echoed through the facility as the men discovered the climate data displays. Sir, you need to see this, one of the men said into his radio. The facility contains much more than we expected. As Jake crawled through the dark shaft behind his daughter, he wondered who these men were reporting to, and more importantly, what they planned to do with the information they were gathering. The ventilation shaft seemed to go on forever, but finally Jake saw light ahead. They were crawling toward the surface, toward freedom. But when they emerged from the underground facility, they would face bigger questions than ever before. If the wildfire had been artificially enhanced, if the climate data showed disasters much worse than anyone knew, if mysterious security teams were investigating Musk's preparations for humanity's survival, then everything they thought they understood about their situation was wrong. Jake emerged from the ventilation shaft first, pulling himself up through a hidden opening disguised as a large rock. The sun was setting, painting the burned landscape in shades of orange that reminded him too much of the fire. He helped Sophia and Miguel climb out, then the other adults. They found themselves about 100 yards from the concrete building behind a small hill that hid them from view. "Everyone okay?" Dr. Chen asked, brushing dirt from her clothes. Captain Park was already scanning the area with her binoculars. "I count 3 black SUVs parked near the building. Government plates." "Government?" Dr. Webb looked surprised. "Those weren't government security teams we saw down there." "Maybe they're pretending to be government," Miguel suggested. "My Aunt Maria says bad people sometimes use fake badges." Jake felt proud of how smart both children were being. They were thinking clearly despite everything they had been through. Pete Williams pointed toward his farm in the distance. "My cattle are still by that pond. At least some good came from this crazy day." "We need to get away from here," Captain Park said. "Those men will figure out we escaped soon enough." But Sophia was looking back toward the building. "Dad, shouldn't we tell someone what we found down there? About the climate information and the weather being changed?" Dr. Webb shook his head. "Who would believe us? And more importantly, who can we trust with that information?" Jake understood what Dr. Webb meant. If powerful people were willing to enhance natural disasters to hide advanced climate research, they wouldn't hesitate to silence anyone who discovered their plans. "We need evidence," Captain Park said. "Photos, documents, something that proves what we saw." "I got pictures with my phone," Dr. Chen said, checking her camera, "but no signal to send them anywhere." As they discussed their options, Jake noticed something moving in the distance. A helicopter was approaching from the east, flying low over the burned landscape. "More company," he said, pointing to the aircraft. The helicopter circled the building twice before landing near the black SUVs. Even from their hiding spot, they could see armed men getting out. "Definitely not a rescue team," Captain Park observed. Dr. Webb was studying the helicopter through the binoculars. "That's military equipment, but no official markings. Private military contractors. What do they want?" Sophia asked. "The same thing we found," Jake replied. "Information about what's really happening to our planet." Miguel had been quietly thinking while the adults talked. "Mr. Morrison, what if Mr. Musk wanted someone to find that information?" Everyone looked at the boy. "What do you mean?" Dr. Chen asked. "Well, he hired your dad to take care of the ranch, right? And he left Dr. Webb's security card working. And the building survived the fire when everything else burned. Maybe he wanted the right people to discover what's down there." Jake felt a chill of realization. Miguel might be right. Everything that had happened, the fire, the building surviving, Dr. Webb showing up at just the right time, it could all be part of a larger plan. "You think Musk knew this would happen?" Captain Park asked. "Maybe not exactly this," Miguel said. "But maybe he knew someone would try to destroy the building, and he wanted good people to find it first." Dr. Webb was nodding slowly. "That would explain why some of my old security codes still worked. He wanted someone with my background to be able to access the facility." Pete Williams had been listening to this conversation with growing concern. "So you're saying this fire that burned down our homes was part of some kind of plan?" "Not Musk's plan," Jake said. "Someone else's plan to destroy the building and hide the information. But maybe Musk was ready for that." As if to confirm their theory, Jake's phone suddenly buzzed with a text message. He looked at the screen in surprise. "How is there cell service here? There wasn't any signal underground or when we first came up." The message was from an unknown number. "Jake, meet me at your wife's grave at midnight. Come alone. Important information about Sarah's death. Jake's hands shook as he read the message. Sarah's death? What could Elon Musk possibly know about his wife's car accident? Dad, what is it? Sophia asked, seeing her father's expression. Jake showed the message to the group. Everyone read it in shocked silence. EM has to be Elon Musk, Dr. Webb said. But how does he know about your wife? And why mention her death? Dr. Chen asked gently. Jake felt like the ground was shifting under his feet. Sarah had died in a car accident 2 years ago. A rainy night, a sharp curve, a tree that came out of nowhere. At least, that's what the police report said. Dad, are you gonna meet him? Sophia asked. Jake looked at his daughter, then at the mysterious building surrounded by armed men, then at the burned landscape that used to be their home. I don't know if I have a choice, he said. Captain Park checked her watch. It's 8 p.m. now. That gives us 4 hours to figure out what's really going on. We need to get somewhere safe first, Dr. Webb said. Those security teams will be looking for us soon. Pete Williams made a decision. Come to my farm. The house is still standing, and I've got supplies. We can figure out our next move there. As they walked carefully through the burned landscape toward Pete's farm, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the message. What could Musk possibly know about Sarah's death that Jake didn't? And more importantly, was he walking into a trap, or was this his only chance to learn the truth about everything that had happened to his family? The stars were coming out above them, the same stars that had watched over this land for thousands of years. But tonight, everything felt different. The ground beneath their feet held secrets that could change the world. And somewhere in that concrete building behind them, armed men were discovering information that powerful people had been willing to kill to protect. Jake looked at Sophia walking beside him, brave and strong like her mother had been. Whatever happened at midnight, whatever truths Elon Musk had to share, Jake knew one thing for certain. He would do anything to protect his daughter and make sure she had a future worth living in. Even if that meant facing the possibility that his wife's death hadn't been an accident after all. Pete Williams' farmhouse sat on a hill overlooking the valley where his cattle had found safety. The old wooden house had somehow survived the fire, protected by a creek that ran around 3 sides of the property. Come on in, Pete said, opening his front door. It's not fancy, but it's safe. The house smelled like coffee and old leather. Family photos covered the walls, showing Pete and his late wife through 40 years of ranch life. It felt like stepping back in time to a simpler world. Mr. Williams, do you have a landline phone? Captain Park asked. I need to call my headquarters. Sure do. Kitchen wall, next to the refrigerator. While Captain Park made her calls, Dr. Chen helped Pete prepare food for everyone. Sophia and Miguel sat at the kitchen table, still processing everything they had experienced. Dad, Sophia said quietly, what did that message mean about Mom? Jake sat down beside his daughter. I don't know, sweetheart, but we're going to find out. Dr. Webb was studying the photos Jake had saved on his phone from inside the facility. This climate data is incredible. If it's accurate, we're facing changes much faster than anyone publicly admits. That's what bothers me, Jake said. Why hide information that could help people prepare? Because preparation costs money, Pete Williams said from the stove where he was heating soup. And some folks make more money when other people aren't prepared. Miguel looked up from his sketch pad. During their escape, he had been drawing everything he saw in the facility. His pictures showed the Mars colony plans, the climate data, and the computer systems. Miguel, those drawings are excellent, Dr. Chen said, looking over his shoulder. My teacher says I have a good memory for details. Miguel replied. I thought maybe these pictures could help people understand what we saw. Captain Park finished her phone calls and returned to the kitchen. Her expression was serious. What did you learn? Jake asked. My headquarters doesn't know anything about federal agents investigating your property, and the helicopter we saw isn't registered with any government agency. So they really are private contractors. Dr. Webb said. But working for who? Dr. Chen asked. Before anyone could answer, car headlights swept across the farmhouse windows. Everyone froze. Expecting company, Pete? Jake asked quietly. Pete shook his head. Nobody knows you're here except us. Captain Park peered through the curtains. It's Fire Chief Santos. And she doesn't look happy. Maria Santos knocked on the door with authority. Pete let her in. and she immediately focused on Miguel. "Miguel Santos, you scared me to death," she said, pulling her nephew into a hug. "When you disappeared from the evacuation center, I thought something terrible had happened. I'm sorry, Aunt Maria, but we found something really important." Chief Santos looked around at the assembled group. "Dr. Chen called me. She said you discovered something in a building on the Morrison Ranch?" Captain Park stepped forward. "Chief, we need to talk privately. What we found raises national security concerns." For the next 30 minutes, Captain Park briefed Chief Santos on everything they had discovered: the underground facility, climate data, the private security teams, and Jake's mysterious message. Chief Santos listened without interruption, occasionally asking questions for clarification. "This is bigger than anything our department can handle," she finally said. "We need federal authorities involved. But which federal authorities can we trust?" Dr. Webb asked. "If private contractors with government plates are involved, how do we know who's legitimate?" Chief Santos considered this carefully. "I have contacts at the FBI who investigate corporate crimes. People I've worked with for years." "What about Jake's meeting tonight?" Sophia asked. "Should Dad go?" Everyone looked at the 8-year-old girl who had been through so much in the past 2 days. Chief Santos knelt down to Sophia's level. "What do you think, honey? You know your dad better than anyone." Sophia thought for a moment. "Dad always says the truth is better than not knowing, even when the truth is scary." Jake felt proud of his daughter's wisdom. "But I won't go if it puts you in danger." "I'll be safe here with everyone else," Sophia said. "And maybe Mr. Musk has answers that could help other people too." Dr. Chen checked her watch. "It's 10:30 p.m. If Jake is going to make that meeting, he needs to leave soon." Chief Santos made a decision. "I'm calling in my FBI contacts. They can monitor the meeting from a distance and provide backup if needed." "What if it's a trap?" Pete Williams asked. "Then we'll be ready," Chief Santos replied. "But if Elon Musk really does have information about artificial weather manipulation and hidden climate data, we need to know." As preparations were made for Jake's meeting, Miguel approached him with his sketch pad. "Mr. Morrison, I drew this for you," Miguel said, showing Jake a detailed picture of the concrete building surrounded by green grass while everything else was burned. "It's perfect, Miguel. Thank you. I think your wife would be proud of how brave you're being," Miguel added quietly. Jake felt tears in his eyes. This young boy had such wisdom and compassion. Captain Park returned from coordinating with Chief Santos' FBI contacts. They'll have surveillance teams positioned around the cemetery. If anything goes wrong, help will be there in seconds. Dr. Webb checked his phone. "Jake, there's something else you should know. I've been thinking about that message mentioning your wife's death." "What about it?" 2 years ago, I was still working on climate research projects. There were rumors that people asking too many questions about weather manipulation were having accidents. Jake felt a chill run through his body. "You think Sarah was killed because of something she discovered?" "I think it's possible. And if that's true, then Musk might be the only person who knows what really happened." Sophia overheard this conversation. "Dad, if someone hurt Mom because she was trying to help people, then we need to stop them from hurting anyone else." Jake looked at his brave daughter and realized she was right. This wasn't just about their family anymore. It was about protecting other families from the same kind of loss. "Okay," Jake said. "I'll go to the meeting." Chief Santos handed him a small communication device. "This will let us hear everything, and if you say the word thunder, we'll move in immediately." As Jake prepared to leave, everyone gathered around him. Dr. Chen hugged him goodbye. Pete Williams shook his hand firmly. Captain Park reminded him to stay alert, but it was Sophia's goodbye that meant the most. "Be careful, Dad. And remember, whatever Mr. Musk tells you about Mom, she loved us both very much." Jake hugged his daughter tightly. "I love you too, sweetheart. I'll be back soon." As Jake drove toward the cemetery where Sarah was buried, he thought about everything that had happened since the fire started. His home was gone, but he had discovered friends and allies he never expected. And now he was about to learn truths that might change everything he thought he knew about his wife's death and the world his daughter would inherit. The cemetery gates stood open in the moonlight, waiting for answers that had been hidden too long. Jake parked his truck near the entrance and walked slowly along the gravel path. His boots crunched softly on the small stones as he made his way towards Sarah's grave in the older section of Cedar Hill Cemetery. The headstone was simple granite with her name, dates, and the words beloved wife and mother. Jake had chosen those words carefully 2 years ago, never imagining he might learn new truths about her death tonight. A figure stepped out from behind a large oak tree. Even in the moonlight, Jake recognized Elon Musk immediately. He was taller than Jake expected, with the same intense expression he wore in news interviews. "Mr. Morrison," Musk said quietly, "thank you for coming. You said you had information about my wife's death," Jake replied. "What do you know?" Musk gestured toward a stone bench near Sarah's grave. "Please, sit down. What I have to tell you is difficult to hear." Jake sat but remained alert. Through his earpiece, he could hear Chief Santos and her FBI contacts monitoring the conversation. Sarah wasn't just a school teacher, Musk began. She was also a climate researcher, part of a network of scientists documenting weather manipulation experiments. Jake felt his world shift. Weather manipulation? Sarah never mentioned anything like that. She couldn't. The research was classified, funded by private companies testing atmospheric engineering. They were experimenting with ways to enhance droughts and storms. Why would they do that? Musk's expression darkened. To create disasters that would make their solutions seem necessary. Companies that profit from emergency responses, insurance payouts, and disaster rebuilding. Jake thought about the drought conditions that had made the wildfire so destructive. "You're saying they made the drought worse on purpose?" Sarah discovered evidence of atmospheric manipulation over central Texas. She was planning to go public with her findings. Jake's hands clenched into fists. "So they killed her. They staged an accident." "Yes." Made it look like she lost control on a wet road. Musk pulled out a tablet and showed Jake a video file. "This is traffic camera footage from that night. The real footage, not what the police received." On the screen, Jake watched his wife driving carefully through the rain. Another vehicle appeared behind her, deliberately ramming her car and forcing it into the tree. Jake felt rage and grief wash over him in equal measure. Who did this? The same people who tried to destroy my facility today. A coalition of energy companies, insurance corporations, and corrupt government officials. They call themselves the Heritage Foundation. But they're really disaster capitalists. What do they want? Musk stood and walked to Sarah's headstone. They want to control the narrative about climate change. Speed up some disasters while hiding others. Keep the public confused and dependent on their solutions. Jake activated his earpiece. "Chief Santos, are you getting this?" Santos's voice came through clearly. "We're recording everything, Jake. The FBI is very interested in Heritage Foundation." Musk heard the communication and nodded approvingly. "Good. It's time this information became public." "What about my daughter?" Jake asked. "Is Sophia in danger?" "She was, until you discovered the facility. Now they know their secrets are exposed. They'll focus on damage control rather than silencing individuals." Musk sat back down on the bench. "Jake, I need to ask something of you. The facility you found contains technology that could help humanity survive what's coming. But I can't manage it alone." "What are you asking?" "I want you to become the public director of the facility. Make it a transparent research center where scientists can work openly on climate solutions." Jake thought about everything he had experienced in the past 2 days. "Why me?" "Because you're not a scientist or politician. You're a father who wants to protect his daughter's future. People will trust you in ways they won't trust me." Through his earpiece, Jake heard Captain Park's voice. "Jake, we have movement. Several vehicles approaching the cemetery." Musk checked his phone. "They found us faster than I expected. We need to go." "Wait," Jake said. "There's more you haven't told me." "There's always more. But right now, we need to focus on staying alive long enough to use what you've learned." Car headlights swept across the cemetery as multiple vehicles entered through the main gate. Jake could see men in dark clothing getting out of SUVs. "This way," Musk said, leading Jake toward the back of the cemetery where a helicopter waited with its rotors already spinning. As they ran between headstones, Jake spoke into his earpiece. "Chief Santos, we need backup at the cemetery. Multiple hostiles approaching. FBI teams are moving in now." Santos replied, "Get to safety." Jake and Musk reached the helicopter just as armed men began spreading through the cemetery. The pilot lifted off immediately, rising above the oak trees into the night sky. "Who are those people?" Jake asked over the noise of the rotors. Heritage Foundation security. They've been tracking my movements for months. Below them, Jake could see FBI vehicles surrounding the cemetery. Spotlights illuminated the area as federal agents confronted the private security teams. Jake, Musk said, what I'm about to show you will change how you see everything. The helicopter flew over the burned landscape toward a destination Jake didn't recognize. In the distance, he could see lights that looked like an industrial complex. Where are we going? To the real facility. What you found today was just the backup location. As they flew through the night, Jake realized that everything he thought he knew about the past 2 days was about to change again. The concrete building that survived the fire, the climate data, even Sarah's murder, it was all part of something much larger. And somehow his 8-year-old daughter and a young boy named Miguel had been the keys to unlocking secrets that could save or doom human civilization. The helicopter began to descend toward a complex of buildings that looked like a small city. Advanced technology glowed in the darkness, and Jake could see people working even at this late hour. Welcome to the real Project Preserve, Musk said. This is where we're building humanity's future. As they landed, Jake thought about Sophia safe at Pete Williams' farm, drawing pictures with Miguel and learning that even children could be heroes when the world needed saving. Whatever happened next, Jake knew one thing for certain. Sarah's death would not be in vain, and their daughter would inherit a world where truth was stronger than the forces trying to destroy it. The helicopter touched down and Jake stepped into a future he had never imagined possible. The facility sprawled across several acres, with buildings that looked like they belonged on a movie set about space colonies. Solar panels covered every roof, and wind turbines spun quietly in the night breeze. People in lab coats moved between buildings, working even at this late hour. This is incredible, Jake said, following Musk toward the main building. We call it Project Preserve, Musk explained. 3 years in the making. Everything humanity needs to survive the next century of climate disasters. As they walked, Jake spoke into his earpiece. Chief Santos, can you hear me? Santos's voice came through clearly. We can hear you, Jake. The FBI has secured the cemetery. Several Heritage Foundation operatives are in custody. What about the others back at Pete's farm? Everyone is safe. Sophia and Miguel are asking when you're coming home. Jake felt relief wash over him. His daughter was safe, and the people who killed Sarah were finally being caught. Inside the main building, Jake saw technology that seemed decades ahead of anything he knew existed. Computer screens showed weather patterns from around the world, satellite feeds of crop conditions, and data about renewable energy production. How many people work here? Jake asked. About 200 scientists, engineers, and support staff, Musk replied, all working on solutions to the climate crisis. They entered a conference room where several people were waiting. Jake recognized some faces from news reports, leading climate scientists, renewable energy experts, and agricultural researchers. Everyone, this is Jake Morrison, Musk announced. He's the one who discovered the Heritage Foundation's weather manipulation evidence. A woman with gray hair stepped forward. Mr. Morrison, I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Director of Climate Research. What you've uncovered could save millions of lives. How? Jake asked. Dr. Rodriguez led him to a large screen showing global temperature projections. The Heritage Foundation has been secretly making disasters worse to hide how fast climate change is really happening. By exposing them, we can finally tell people the truth. Jake studied the display. It showed the same data he had seen in the underground facility, but with more detail. According to our research, Dr. Rodriguez continued, we have maybe 10 years to completely change how humans produce energy and grow food. After that, large parts of Earth will be uninhabitable. But we have solutions, added Dr. James Chen, Elena's colleague. Clean energy technology, new farming methods, even plans for sustainable cities. We just need the public to understand the urgency. Musk showed Jake another room filled with prototype equipment. Wind turbines that work in any weather. Solar panels that generate power even at night. Water purification systems that can clean any source. Why keep this secret? Jake asked. People need these technologies now. We weren't keeping them secret, Musk explained. We were preparing for the Heritage Foundation to try stopping us. They make billions from disaster recovery. Clean energy threatens their business model. Jake's phone buzzed with a text from Chief Santos. Jake, you need to see the news. Turn on any channel. Musk led Jake to a room with multiple TV screens. Every news channel was covering the same story. FBI raids on Heritage Foundation offices across the country. Breaking news, a reporter was saying. Federal agents have arrested executives from several major corporations accused of manipulating weather patterns to enhance natural disasters. Another channel showed Captain Park giving an interview. The evidence we discovered shows a coordinated effort to profit from climate disasters while hiding their true causes from the American people. Jake felt a surge of pride. Captain Park looked professional and confident as she explained their discoveries to the world. On a third screen, Dr. Webb was being interviewed outside the concrete building. This facility contains climate data that's years ahead of what the public has seen. It's time for complete transparency about what we're facing. The whole world is learning the truth, Musk said. Thanks to what you and your team discovered. Jake watched the news coverage for several minutes, seeing politicians demanding investigations, scientists calling for emergency action, and ordinary people expressing shock about the conspiracy. What happens now? Jake asked. Now we go public with everything. Dr. Rodriguez said, the clean energy technology, the agricultural solutions, the plans for sustainable communities. No more hiding. Musk pulled out his phone and showed Jake a website that was launching in real time. Project Preserve is now completely open to the public. All our research, all our technology, available to any scientist or government that wants to use it. Jake thought about Sophia and Miguel, two children who had helped expose the conspiracy through their courage and intelligence. What about the kids? Sophia and Miguel deserve credit for what they discovered. They'll get it, Musk promised. In fact, I'd like them to be part of the announcement. Show the world that even children can be heroes when adults listen to them. Jake's earpiece crackled with Chief Santos' voice. Jake, we're ready to bring you home. The helicopter can pick you up whenever you're ready. Actually, Chief, Jake replied, can you bring the others here? I think Sophia and Miguel should see this place. 20 minutes later, another helicopter landed at Project Preserve. Jake watched as Sophia, Miguel, Dr. Chen, Captain Park, Dr. Webb, and Pete Williams climbed out. Sophia ran to hug her father. Dad, are you okay? Did you learn what happened, Mom? Yes, sweetheart. And the people who hurt her are going to jail. Miguel was staring at the advanced buildings with wide eyes. This place looks like something from the future. It is the future, Jake said, and you helped to make it possible. Dr. Rodriguez gave everyone a tour of the facility. She showed them the laboratories where scientists were developing new types of crops that could grow in changing climates. She demonstrated water purification systems that could turn any water source into drinking water. In the renewable energy lab, Sophia was fascinated by solar panels that looked like windows. They're beautiful, she said, and they can power entire buildings, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Clean energy doesn't have to be ugly. Miguel found the computer center most interesting. These computers can predict weather months in advance. Better than that, said the lead programmer, they can help us prepare for weather changes before they happen. As the tour continued, Jake realized this wasn't just about advanced technology. It was about hope. For the first time since the fire started, he felt optimistic about his daughter's future. Pete Williams was examining the agricultural research. These new farming methods could help us grow food even in drought conditions, he said admiringly. Mr. Williams, Dr. Rodriguez said, would you be interested in testing some of these techniques on your ranch? We need real farmers to help prove they work. Pete grinned. Lady, after what I've seen in the past 2 days, I'm ready to try anything that might help. As dawn approached, Jake stood with Sophia and Miguel on an observation deck, overlooking the facility. The sun was rising over a landscape that looked completely different from the burned ranch they had left behind. Dad, Sophia said, do you think Mom would be proud of what we did? Jake put his arms around both children. I think she'd be amazed by how brave you both were. And I think she'd be happy, knowing her research finally helped people. Miguel pointed to the horizon where new wind turbines were being installed. Look, the future is already starting. Jake smiled. 2 days ago, they had lost their home to a wildfire. Today, they had helped expose a conspiracy and discovered technologies that could save the planet. Tomorrow, They would start building a better world for everyone. 6 weeks later, Jake stood in the rebuilt community center in Cedar Creek, watching Sophia and Miguel present their project to a room full of scientists, reporters, and government officials. "Our report is called How Kids Can Help Save the Planet," Sophia said into the microphone, her voice clear and confident. Miguel held up his drawings from their underground adventure. "We learned that grown-ups sometimes hide important information because they think it's too scary for children. But kids are braver than adults think." Jake felt proud watching his daughter speak to the crowd. After everything they had been through, Sophia had become a confident young leader who wasn't afraid to tell the truth. The past 6 weeks had been a whirlwind of change. The Heritage Foundation conspiracy had made international news. Corporate executives were facing criminal charges. New laws were being passed to prevent weather manipulation. But the changes went deeper than just arrests and new regulations. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached Jake during a break in the presentations. The children's testimony to Congress was incredible. They explained climate science better than most adult witnesses. "They've been through a lot," Jake replied, "but they never lost their curiosity about how things work." Project Preserve had become a model for open scientific research. The facility Jake had first visited was now a public education center, where school groups came to learn about renewable energy and sustainable farming. Pete Williams walked over carrying a tablet showing data from his farm. "Jake, look at these crop guides. The new drought-resistant seeds are producing 30% more food than my old varieties." "That's amazing, Pete. And the solar panels Dr. Rodriguez installed are generating more power than my farm uses. I'm actually selling electricity back to the grid." Captain Park joined their conversation. She had been promoted to head a new federal task force, investigating corporate environmental crimes. "The Heritage Foundation trials start next month," she told Jake. "Your testimony about Sarah's murder will be crucial evidence." Jake nodded. The past 6 weeks had been difficult as he processed the truth about his wife's death, but knowing that justice was finally coming helped him heal. Dr. Webb approached with exciting news. "Jake, I just got approval for the memorial project. We're going to build a climate research center in Sarah's name right here in Cedar Creek." "She would have loved that," Jake said softly. The Sarah Morrison Climate Research Center would focus on making climate science accessible to ordinary people. No more hiding important information or using technical language that confused the public. As the presentations continued, Jake thought about how much had changed since the night of the wildfire. The concrete building that had survived the fire was now a museum showing how the conspiracy was exposed. Visitors could see the underground facility, the climate data displays, and Miguel's original drawings that helped document everything. Thunder, lightning, and storm had become famous as the rescue horses that helped save Pete's cattle. Dr. Chen had started an animal therapy program at the new facility, helping other children who had experienced trauma. Fire Chief Santos had been elected to the state legislature, campaigning on a platform of emergency preparedness and climate adaptation. Tommy Rodriguez had won a Pulitzer Prize for his reporting on the Heritage Foundation conspiracy. His news stories had helped the public understand how corporate greed had made natural disasters worse. But the most important changes were happening in communities across the country. "Dad, come look at this," Sophia called from her presentation table. She was showing visitors a map of renewable energy projects that had started because of their discoveries. Wind farms, solar installations, and water purification plants were being built in dozens of states. People stopped being afraid of climate change when they learned there were solutions. Miguel explained to a group of adult visitors. Fear made them feel helpless, but hope made them take action. Jake marveled at the wisdom of these two children who had helped change the world. As the event continued, Jake received a text message from Elon Musk. "Jake, turn on the news. Something you need to see." Jake found a TV in the community center's lobby. A breaking news report was showing footage of similar weather manipulation equipment being discovered in other countries. "The Heritage Foundation conspiracy appears to have been international," the reporter was saying. "Investigators have found evidence of artificial drought enhancement in Australia, Europe, and South America." Captain Park joined Jake at the TV. "This is just the beginning. We're uncovering weather manipulation operations on every continent, but also renewable energy projects on every continent," Jake pointed out. "The solutions are spreading as fast as the problems." That evening, Jake and Sophia sat on the porch of their new home. It was smaller than their old ranch house, but it had solar panels on the roof, and a garden where they grew vegetables using drought-resistant techniques. "Dad, do you think Mom can see what we accomplished?" Sophia asked. Jake looked up at the stars. "I think she can. And I think she's proud of how brave you've been." Sophia was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes I still miss her." "Me too, sweetheart. But I think the best way to honor her memory is to keep working for the kind of world she wanted to build. A world where people tell the truth about important things." "Exactly." Miguel rode up on his bicycle, carrying a notebook full of new drawings. "Mr. Morrison, Sophia, wait until you see what Dr. Rodriguez showed me today." He opened his notebook to reveal detailed sketches of floating cities designed to rise with sea level changes, underground farms that could grow food during extreme weather, and transportation systems powered entirely by clean energy. "These aren't just ideas," Miguel said excitedly. "They're already building the first floating city in the Netherlands." Sophia studied the drawings. "Miguel, you're getting really good at technical illustration. Dr. Webb is teaching me engineering drawing. He says kids who can imagine the future are the ones who will build it." As the three of them talked about the projects they had seen that day, Jake realized something important. The wildfire that had destroyed their old life had actually opened the door to a better life. They had lost their house, but they had gained a community of people working together to solve problems. They had discovered painful truths about Sarah's death, but they had also ensured that her research would help save lives. They had faced dangerous conspiracies, but they had also found their own power to make positive change. "Dad," Sophia said, "I've been thinking about what I want to be when I grow up." "What's that?" "A truth teller. Someone who makes sure important information doesn't get hidden from people who need it." Miguel nodded enthusiastically. "Me too. I want to draw pictures that help people understand complicated things." Jake smiled at these two remarkable children who had already done more to help the world than most adults ever would. "You know what?" Jake said. "I think you've already started your careers." As they sat together on the porch watching the wind turbines spin slowly in the distance, Jake felt grateful for everything that had happened. Even the painful parts had led to something better. Tomorrow, there would be more work to do, more problems to solve, more truth to uncover, but tonight they could rest knowing they had helped build a foundation for a better world. Jake woke up early the next morning to find a message waiting on his secure phone. It was from Captain Park, marked urgent. "Meet me at the old building. New evidence about the conspiracy. Bring Sophia and Miguel if they want to come." At breakfast, Jake showed the message to Sophia and Miguel, who were staying over for the weekend while his Aunt Maria worked a double shift at the fire station. "More evidence?" Sophia asked, spreading solar-powered honey from Pete's new beehives on her toast. "Captain Park wouldn't call us unless it was important," Jake said. "Do you want to come with me?" Both children nodded immediately. Their adventure 6 weeks ago had made them partners in uncovering the truth, not just observers. The drive to the old ranch took 20 minutes through countryside that was finally showing signs of recovery. New grass grew in patches across the burned landscape, and construction crews were building houses designed to survive future wildfires. The concrete building now had a visitor parking area and a small welcome center. Dr. Webb met them at the entrance, looking excited but also concerned. "Jake, what Captain Park found changes everything we thought we knew about the conspiracy," Dr. Webb said as they walked toward the building. "What do you mean?" Miguel asked. "You'll see. But prepare yourselves. This goes deeper than we imagined." Captain Park was waiting for them in the underground facility, which had been converted into a museum. Interactive displays showed how the children's drawings had helped expose the weather manipulation, and visitors could walk through the rooms where they had discovered the climate data. "Thank you for coming so quickly," Captain Park said. "Yesterday, we arrested the last Heritage Foundation executive. During questioning, he revealed something that changes our entire understanding of the conspiracy." She led them to a new room that hadn't existed during their original adventure. The walls were covered with maps, photographs, and documents that Jake had never seen before. The Heritage Foundation wasn't just manipulating weather to create disasters, Captain Park explained. They were preparing for something much bigger. Sophia studied a world map covered with red pins. "What do these pins represent?" "Locations where they built secret facilities like this one. But not to help people survive climate change. To control who gets to survive." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" Dr. Webb pulled up files on a computer screen. They were planning to let climate disasters get much worse while protecting only wealthy clients who could pay for access to their survival facilities. Like a private ark for rich people? Miguel asked, his young mind grasping the concept immediately. Exactly, Captain Park said. They wanted billions of people to suffer while a select few lived in luxury bunkers. Jake thought about the comfortable living quarters, the advanced technology, and the months of supplies they had found in the underground facility. It was designed for long-term survival, but only for a few people. How many of these facilities did they build? Sophia asked. 47 around the world. Captain Park replied. Each one designed to house about 50 wealthy families during a global climate collapse. What happened to the other facilities? Jake asked. That's the good news, Dr. Webb said with a smile. Governments have seized all of them. They're being converted into public research centers and emergency shelters for entire communities, not just rich people. Captain Park showed them photographs of the other facilities. Some were built into mountains in Switzerland. Others were underwater structures off the coast of California. One was disguised as a luxury hotel in Dubai. The technology is incredible, she continued. Advanced life support systems, hydroponic farms, water recycling, renewable energy, everything needed for long-term survival. But now they'll help everyone, not just wealthy families, Miguel said, understanding the justice in this outcome. That's right. Your discovery didn't just expose the conspiracy, it democratized survival technology that was meant to be hoarded by the rich. Jake looked around at the facility that had once been intended to protect only a privileged few. Now it was a museum, where school children learned about climate science and visitors could see how ordinary people had exposed a global conspiracy. There's something else, Captain Park said, pulling out a folder marked classified. We found evidence that the Heritage Foundation had a list of people they planned to eliminate because they posed a threat to their plans. Jake's heart stopped. Sarah was on the list, wasn't she? Yes, but so were hundreds of other climate scientists, journalists, and activists. People who were asking too many questions or getting too close to the truth. Sophia took her father's hand. Dad, that means Mom was murdered because she was a hero. Jake felt tears in his eyes. She was always a hero to us. Now the whole world knows it. Dr. Webb showed them another document. The Heritage Foundation kept detailed records of their operations. Sarah's research had identified their weather manipulation equipment in 17 states. She was going to publish a paper that would have exposed everything 2 years early. So they killed her to buy more time to complete their preparations, Jake said, anger rising in his voice. But they failed. Miguel pointed out with the clarity that children often brought to complex situations. Because you and Sophia didn't give up looking for the truth. Captain Park nodded. The Heritage Foundation's own records show they considered your family neutralized after Sarah's death. They never expected a ranch caretaker and his 8-year-old daughter to uncover their entire operation. They underestimated kids, Sophia said simply. They underestimated everyone except wealthy people like themselves. Dr. Webb added. They thought ordinary families couldn't understand or respond to complex threats. Jake walked to the display showing Sarah's research notes, which had been recovered from Heritage Foundation files. Her handwriting covered pages of calculations and observations about artificial drought enhancement. She knew she was in danger, Jake realized, reading her final notes. Look, she wrote, if something happens to me, tell Jake to look for the unusual patterns. She was trying to leave us clues. The unusual pattern was the building surviving the fire. Sophia said, she knew we'd find this place eventually. Miguel was studying photographs of the other Heritage Foundation facilities. Mr. Morrison, look at this one in Colorado. It's built inside a mountain, but they disguised it as a ski resort. 47 facilities, 47 communities that will now have access to advanced survival technology, Captain Park said. Your courage changed the fate of millions of people. As they prepared to leave the facility, Jake took one last look around the room, where they had first discovered the conspiracy. The climate data displays were still running, but now they showed hopeful projections as renewable energy projects came online around the world. Captain Park, Sophia said, what happens to the Heritage Foundation executives now? They'll face trials for murder, fraud, and conspiracy. Some will spend the rest of their lives in prison. Good, Miguel said with the firm sense of justice that children possessed. As they walked back to their car, Jake thought about the hidden scope of the conspiracy they had exposed. It wasn't just about weather manipulation or corporate greed. It was about powerful people planning to abandon humanity during its greatest crisis. But it was also about ordinary people. A ranch caretaker, his young daughter, a curious boy, their community, proving that courage and truth were stronger than money and secrecy. "Dad," Sophia said as they drove home, "I'm glad Mom's research finally helped save people." "Me too, sweetheart, and I'm glad we finished what she started." That evening, as Jake tucked Sophia into bed, she asked the question he had been expecting. "Dad, do you think there are other bad people planning things like this?" Jake considered his answer carefully. "Maybe. But now we know that ordinary people can expose even the biggest conspiracies if they're brave enough to look for the truth. And if they don't give up when things get scary, especially then." As Jake turned off the lights, he felt grateful that his daughter lived in a world where truth had won over deception, where community had defeated isolation, and where children's voices were finally being heard by the adults who needed to listen. 3 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of the Sarah Morrison Climate Research Center, watching the dedication ceremony taking place in the valley below. Hundreds of people had gathered to celebrate the opening of the facility that would carry his wife's name and mission forward. "Dad, look how many people came," Sophia said, pointing to the crowd assembled around the new building. The research center was beautiful. Solar panels covered the roof like scales on a dragon's back. Wind turbines spun slowly in the Texas breeze. Gardens filled with drought-resistant plants surrounded the building, showing visitors that beauty and sustainability could work together. Miguel ran up to join them, carrying his newest sketchbook filled with drawings of renewable energy projects around the world. "Mr. Morrison, Sophia, Dr. Rodriguez wants us to come down for the ribbon cutting." As they walked down to the ceremony, Jake marveled at how much had changed since that terrible night when the wildfire started. The burned landscape was now dotted with construction projects, new homes built to survive extreme weather, solar farms that would power the entire county, and research stations where scientists studied climate solutions. The Heritage Foundation trials had ended the week before. 12 executives received life sentences for murder and conspiracy. Their facilities around the world were now public research centers, their hoarded technology available to anyone who needed it. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Elena Rodriguez announced to the crowd, "welcome to the dedication of the Sarah Morrison Climate Research Center." Applause echoed across the valley. Jake saw familiar faces in the crowd. Fire Chief Santos, now State Senator Santos, working on climate legislation. Captain Park, leading the new Federal Environmental Crimes Task Force. Dr. Webb, directing the public release of advanced clean energy patents. Pete Williams sat in the front row wearing his best shirt and a proud smile. His farm had become a model for sustainable agriculture, visited by farmers from around the world who wanted to learn his new techniques. Tommy Rodriguez was covering the ceremony for a documentary about ordinary people who had changed the world. His Pulitzer Prize sat on his desk back at the newspaper, but he said his proudest achievement was helping expose the truth about the Heritage Foundation. "Today, we celebrate not just a new research facility," Dr. Rodriguez continued, "but the victory of courage over conspiracy, of truth over lies, of community over greed." Elon Musk stepped to the podium, looking directly at Jake, Sophia, and Miguel in the front row. "This facility exists because a ranch caretaker and 2 children refused to accept that their questions didn't matter. They proved that ordinary people can expose the most powerful conspiracies when they're brave enough to seek the truth." The crowd applauded again. Jake felt Sophia squeeze his hand. "Sophia Morrison and Miguel Santos," Musk continued, "please come up here." The 2 children walked to the podium, no longer shy about speaking to large crowds. "We learned something important," Sophia said into the microphone. "Adults sometimes think kids can't understand complicated problems. But kids see things differently than grown-ups. We ask why when adults just accept things." Miguel nodded. "And we don't give up easily. When something doesn't make sense, we keep asking questions until we find the real answer. Which is exactly what the world needs," Musk said. "People who refuse to accept that important information should be hidden from those who need it most." Dr. Rodriguez presented Sophia and Miguel with special recognition as the youngest climate research fellows in the center's history. They would spend summers learning from the world's top scientists and sharing their insights with researchers who sometimes forgot to think like children. As the formal ceremony concluded, Jake found himself surrounded by reporters asking about his family's role in exposing the conspiracy. "Mr. Morrison," one reporter asked, "what would you tell other families facing environmental disasters?" Jake thought carefully before answering. "I'd tell them that they're not powerless, that their questions matter, that sometimes the most important discoveries come from people who refuse to accept that things can't be changed." "What about the personal cost? You lost your home, discovered your wife was murdered, and put your daughter in danger." "We lost our house," Jake corrected, "but we gained a community of people working to solve real problems. We learned painful truths about Sarah's death, but we also ensured her research would save lives. And yes, we faced danger, but we also discovered our own power to make positive change." Another reporter turned to Sophia. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Sophia smiled. "I already am what I want to be, a truth finder. Someone who makes sure important information doesn't get hidden from people who need it." As the crowd began to disperse, Jake walked with Sophia and Miguel through the new research center. The building was filled with interactive displays, showing climate solutions, laboratories where students could conduct experiments, and a library containing all of Sarah's research notes alongside the latest scientific discoveries. In the main exhibition hall, visitors could see Miguel's original drawings from their underground adventure, now displayed alongside satellite images and computer models that proved their discoveries were accurate. "Look, Dad," Sophia pointed to a display showing global temperature changes. "The world is actually getting a little cooler because of all the clean energy projects that started after we exposed the conspiracy." Jake studied the data. She was right. The rapid deployment of renewable energy technology, combined with the end of artificial weather manipulation, had begun to slow climate change faster than anyone had predicted. "Miguel, your drawings help save the planet," Jake said. Miguel blushed. "We all help save the planet. Even thunder, lightning, and storm help by leading Pete's cattle to safety." As the afternoon sun slanted through the research center's solar panel windows, casting rainbow patterns on the floor, Jake felt a deep sense of peace. They had kept their promise to Sarah. Her research was now helping millions of people prepare for and prevent climate disasters. The Heritage Foundation's plans to abandon humanity during its greatest crisis had been replaced by a global movement to work together on solutions. The technology they had hoarded was now freely shared. The disasters they had enhanced were being prevented through early warning systems and community preparation. "Dad," Sophia said as they walked toward their electric car, "do you think Mom knows what we accomplished?" Jake looked up at the wind turbines spinning against the blue Texas sky, then at the research center bearing Sarah's name, then at his remarkable daughter who had helped change the world. "I think she knows," he said. "And I think she's proud of how you turned our family's tragedy into hope for everyone's children." As they drove home past fields of solar panels and new wind farms, past construction sites where sustainable communities were being built, past the pond where Pete's cattle grazed contentedly on drought-resistant grass, Jake realized something profound. The wildfire that had seemed to destroy everything had actually revealed the most important truth of all, that ordinary people, working together with courage and determination, could overcome even the most powerful forces trying to prevent positive change. Sophia fell asleep in the passenger seat, her head resting against the window. In her dreams, she was probably designing new solutions to problems that adults hadn't even recognized yet. Miguel dozed in the back seat, his sketchbook open to drawings of floating cities and underground farms and transportation systems that would help humanity thrive no matter what challenges lay ahead. And Jake drove through the recovering landscape, grateful for the wildfire that had burned away their old life and revealed the path to a much better one. The concrete building still stood on the hill in the distance, no longer mysterious, but transformed into a symbol of hope. Its walls had protected the secrets that saved the world. Its survival had proven that some things are built to last through any disaster. Just like the truth, just like love, just like the courage of ordinary people who refuse to accept that things can't be changed. The setting sun painted the sky orange and gold, but this time the colors meant promise, not danger. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to build the world that Sarah had dreamed of and that Sophia would inherit. A world where wildfires were prevented instead of enhanced, where survival technology belonged to everyone, not just the wealthy, where children's voices were heard and their questions were answered honestly, where hope was stronger than fear, and community was stronger than conspiracy, and truth was the most powerful force of all. That was the end of this incredible journey through courage, conspiracy, and hope. Jake, Sophia, and Miguel proved that ordinary people can expose even the most powerful secrets when they refuse to give up on the truth. We'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let us know your location. If you enjoyed following this adventure of a father and daughter who helped save the world, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating tales of heroes, mysteries, and triumph over adversity. Don't forget to share this with your friends and family. Spreading these messages of courage and community helps create the kind of world where truth wins over deception and hope conquers fear. Your support helps us bring more inspiring content that shows how even the smallest voices can make the biggest difference. Thank you for joining us on this journey from a devastating wildfire to global change. Until next time, keep pacing questions, keep seeking truth, and remember, you're never too small to make a difference.